A small change to our advertised program. I was, hoping to speak with Paul Barber from the Salvation Army Social Policy and Parliamentary Unit on the topic of traffic lights for beneficiaries. Don't tell Paul, but we've had an upgrade. Lieutenant Colonel Ian Hutson from the Social Policy and Parliamentary Unit. Kia ora, good morning. How are you?
Kia ora. Good to see you.
Confusion in schedules my end. I take full responsibility for this one, Ian, but very nice to talk to you again. And kicking things off, talking about Oranga Tamariki and, changes to Section 7AA. Talk to us about what that section means and what the proposed changes could mean.
Well, that section involves Oranga Tamariki taking efforts to try and involve Maori, Whanau, or to take into consideration cultural needs of Maori when they're looking after or seeking to look after the well-being of children.
Yeah.
And basically, that was in the Oranga Tamariki Act, and what the bill was doing was to actually take that out.
Mm-hmm.
So they would no longer need to take note of or report on whether they were taking measures, how that we've been successful at taking measures or whatever. They would no longer need to report on that.
There have been some who have commented that Oranga Tamariki should have a child-first view on this, that is the care and protection of the child is paramount, that tikanga Māori may be important, but not as important as the care and well-being of the children reported to their attention. Is that a fair comment, do you think, Ian?
Oh, well, I think the reality is that in the Act, it's pretty clear already that the interests or the needs or the safety of the child is paramount.
Yeah.
So whatever else comes in the Act, as it was, or as it is trumped by that particular, requirement.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that really stands up. Plus, advice from various circles seemed to show there was no evidence that current practice was putting the cultural needs over the interests of the child.
Yeah.
At all. And in fact, a whole huge number of people who were coming, including some of our own workers, were saying that it had actually improved the opportunities or the well-being of the child was being looked after better because more and more agencies, not just the Oranga Tamariki, but agencies like ourselves, were trying to accommodate the needs of Māori, the cultural needs of Māori, as one part of the overall needs of the child. So people saw this as an ideological move to take out the interests of Māori, but not based on any hard evidence. In fact, if anything, going against the evidence.
I've heard comments from Starship Children's Hospital in Auckland, for example, to say that they feel that removing 7AA would have a detrimental effect on the health outcomes of the children that they see as a part of their service. You mentioned, Ian, that this is also something that you take into consideration in terms of the Salvation Army's work. Generally, this has a measurable positive influence on outcomes, in your opinion?
It does. Well, our youth workers and children workers who work with those kind of the people at various levels are indicating that it's helped them focus on trying to add real value for the child, and so they've changed their practice as an indirect response to this act. It really has improved. I mean, obviously, there's lots of things wrong with Oranga Tamariki, and I'm sure that people trying to take in cultural aspects or the needs of the child will sometimes make mistakes. It's complex situations and all of those sort of things, but on balance, it would make a lot of sense. In fact, we've just come out for the churches in particular, including us, I have to say, We've had the Royal Commission on Abuse and Care,
Yeah.
and aspects of that have highlighted the need for cultural concerns, particularly around Maori, because Maori were hugely overrepresented in
Yes.
that. That a lot of that was kind of connected to the fact that young people, Maori young people, were taken from their families, from their culture,
Mm.
and it was one big chunk of the kind of and I don't know if you call it that, it's specifically abuse, but part of the whole journey that led them to where they were. And of course, I know I've talked to you in the past about our work with gangs.
Yeah.
And what you find when you're talking with people there is that that whole thing of being taken away, their loss of identity, their loss of culture,
Yeah.
their sense of who they are is a big part to what leads them into gangs and then and often into prison and so forth. So
And of course, a significant overlap between those who are in state care and those that end up in our prisons and in gangs, for example.
exactly, and I think this is why it was so important that was in there. I know this is a bit colloquial or whatever, but I did say, because I did submit on this,
Hmm.
went through the submissions process, and I did say that I took the words of my father as advice. He said to me once that if it's important, you count it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If it's not important, you don't. And really, what they're doing is removing a thing out of the act that the Oranga Tamariki at a senior level are meant to report on.
Mm.
So, what it's really saying is it's not important,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think it's incredibly important.
Well, wise words from your father in that regard. I know that, well, a lot of people, yourselves included, very concerned about the outcomes for children and young people in New Zealand. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. So perhaps fair enough that people are saying something isn't working, we need to make changes, but it's
Mm,
counterintuitive to change one of the things that is working within the system.
exactly, and I mean, like I said, we've had the abuse Royal Commission's abuse and inquiry into abuse and care.
Yes.
That was one of the lessons that we got out of it, and so we don't want to go back to repeating mistakes of the past. We
Yeah.
really are struggling to deal with these issues, and we recognise Oranga Tamariki isn't perfect. In fact, there's lots wrong, lots need doing, but that wasn't one thing that needed doing.
Certainly. Yeah, and to be fair, one of the recommendations of the Royal Commission was the disestablishment of Oranga Tamariki and something entirely different set up, and maybe that needs to happen. But tinkering around the edges with Section 7AA, yeah, certainly not what needs to happen. Just interested in your thoughts on this one, because there seems to be within the current coalition government a conscious decoupling when it comes to bicultural relationships between the government and Maori, a a move in particular to have less focus on not just Maori tikanga, but the Treaty of Waitangi in particular, also echoed by non-compulsory Maori wards. Again, something controversial brought in the
Mm.
last few weeks.
Yes, exactly. I mean, this is the actual idea of having um, Māori wards in council, something we have advocated for in the past, because what we see is that Māori are marginalised in the political process, and that they too often don't have representation in being able to speak into the affairs of their wherever they are at every level, like
Yeah,
nationally and but in this instance in councils, not having that ability to speak into it, and we do see that. I mean, from a Christian perspective, we see the Te Tiriti as a binding covenant,
hmm,
and part of that is the idea of rangatiratanga, which means the ability to be involved in leadership, decision making in the nation or in the council. And what really is happening here, we think, is that that has been removed, and
yeah.
it is going to mean Māori don't have a voice at the table in those places.
Well, certainly some things to be concerned about, and I know the Salvation Army Social Policy Unit's doing some very good work advocating for those in the margins of our society and making submissions to government and select committee on these policy areas. Ian, thank you so much for the work that you and the team are doing. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks. Good to see you. Have a good day.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.